All right, so we're back, and it's another week, the Cultural Connections show here at Each Teacher Radio. I'm with Caroline Namugabi, and we're going to be looking at another chapter of her book. I think that this is just a wonderful book. She has wonderful chapters. It's insightful. It's from a psychological perspective, and she's pushing. And I'm loving the fact that she's willing to do this 5-part series because she's trying to educate, inform about what it means to be in relationships and what it's all about, cultural and identity, and it's just very in depth. And it can go above your head if you don't do unpack it little by little. So I'm learning from her, and she's doing all right. And Caroline.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me on our book series. You know, these book series have been so interesting because I know that the way I'm unpacking it slowly but surely, I hope that the viewers can understand my book and my thought process for writing from a psychological perspective. It's both a self-help book and an academic book. The book is called Challenges of Identity, a Psychological Perspective. And so today we're going to be dealing with the relationship part, you know, the identities that we have in different relationships and how we define ourselves in those relationships. So yeah, I am ready and good to go to unpack. Please invite your people. Whoever needs this, invite them. Thank you.
Wonderful. So what I would like to say first off is just little bits of tidbit news. The news going out is that, you know, our beautiful, wonderful lady that we kind of grew up with, Aretha Franklin, has passed away at the age of 76. For all of us, you know, who know her music, we are just, no, we're not so much shocked, but we're just saddened because, you know, it's the end of a beautiful life. This woman has had music that has just resonated with us throughout our lives. And I know everyone wants to talk about the song Respect. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. What do you mean to me? R-E-S-P-E-C-T. That song. But there was just so many she had. She just was a beautiful woman, beautiful spirit. She started young. And it's one of those things that when you look at how people are and, you know, throughout their lives and you see the changes with this lady, you're just so humbled because her voice did not change. She looked so different. She looked so big. She looked small. She looked young. She looked beautiful. She looked natural. She looked just so many ways. Aretha Franklin had so many images, but she was just a beautiful spirit, beautiful soul. And the last thing that I remember seeing her is when she sang at Obama's some event he was doing and the inauguration. So, I know she's done some things other than that. But Aretha, if I get time, we'll give you a tribute. Maybe play one or two of your songs later on. But we'll just have to see how it goes, you know, because Caroline's got a lot to do on her plate. Caroline, I would like you to just talk a little bit also about this gun and knife crime issue, only because me and Caroline went to a gun and knife crime event on Thursday, and that same night, just down the road, you know, we weren't a part of it or anything, we heard about 4 more stabbings. It was crazy that night. And if Caroline willing to just share, she spoke to some of the youth at the event that we went to, the Nicholas Stewart event on the Prince Henry estate, or the Henry Prince estate in Wandsworth. And this is an annual event. Caroline's been going a couple of years. This was my first year. But if she spoke to some of the young people, so maybe she'd just like to share what she felt or what she thought about that day's events.
Do you know, the Nicholas Stewart project was so great for the young people. It's an event that happens. It's a fun day, family fun day that happens every year, and I believe Miss Jennifer, who is the founder of the Nicholas Stewart project, does it in relation to getting the youths together, for them sharing their ideas and sharing their perspective, and also she needs to gather the intelligence about what these youths are really about and what they are about, what their plans are in education, in work, employment, and so forth, and health. So I managed to talk to some of them, and it's like every year. Well, I've been going twice now. Last year I spoke to a different set, and this year I spoke to a different set. So when they come around, they want to have their little music. They're like, where's the music? Where's the drink? Where's the food? But it's quite intriguing, so that they can stay together without any malice. That day there's no malice. It's everybody's unified. When I spoke to them about what they think, how we should deal with this kind of knife crime, they informed that parents should stay out of the young people's business. They would like more support from the adults rather than just telling them what to do. Give them the stage to support them with their employment, support them with their dreams and aspirations, instead of telling someone what to do. And as adults as well, we don't like people telling us what to do. So I realize that it's the approach of how the adults are dealing with the young people, rather than, because they inform me if our parents are treating us like institutionalized, like in schools, like in prisons, we don't have no free place to go. Yeah, the parents, the elders, the community leaders. If you're treating the youths as they will take them to prison, like institution, like, oh, you have to do this, you're doing this the wrong way, like that. It's like these young people are human beings. They want to be spoken to, like, as they call it, so young adults, when they're not really adults yet. But if you treat them like that, not fully adults, but with respect, basically. From what I've got is that the respect and having the dialogue all the time, and not to stay by, let them lead in the subjects or in the events, areas that they know. Yeah. So that's the conversation I got out of that when I was speaking to them. It was quite interesting.
Yeah, because I've always felt that, and I think you've heard me say it a couple of times, that we don't, adults have to sit back a little bit, let the youth take over in areas that they know best. They are still trying to tell us what it takes to run the streets, to help keep people safe. But no one seems to support their ideas. And as we're elders, we're not on the streets. The youth are. So it's the youth who have to lead as well as guide the elders as to what needs to get done. But the trouble is, the elders are still trying to tell the youth what needs to get done in an area that they really don't have much say-so, or they don't have much interaction. And it's a very difficult thing that's going on. I know that this gun and knife crime situation has got crazy. Since Thursday, there has been 6 stabbings in London, and there's been 2 killings, two people dead. Since Thursday. This is now Saturday. So while all these things are going on daily, weekly, life for other people goes on. But what about trying to get to the crux of this matter? What about trying to get to the bottom of these issues? There are too many issues to deal with. You can't deal with them holistically. Some people believe you can, but I feel you have to attack individual things. Mental health is one of the big things, I think. Caroline, what do you think? I think that's just a big thing. Someone brought up a topic of, since these children are the ones killing each other, there has to be some, children's support coming in, because these are underage children, some of them. So it's like child safety, safeguarding has to be part of this, trying to stem some of this gun crime, knife crime, street violence. And that makes a lot of sense, because now we're dealing in an area that's not just the 18-year-olds and up. We're talking about 13, 14, 15-year-olds. So then it's a safeguarding issue. So now I'm assuming you have to deal with some parents on this, because some of them young people are just too young. And so I'm thinking to myself that this is just getting a bit out of hand. It's sort of one of those things that it's just escalating way out. Oh, hi, Colin. Colin's doing an event in Kilburn, so hope you have much success. That's our CEO, just letting us know, but give him a shout out. And I guarantee you he's going to be working and talking about events that are going on in West London. West London, North London, South London, East London, all parts of London are suffering with this knife, gun crime, violence on the street with our young youth. Most of them are black. Not all black, but most of them are black. And it's getting out of hand. And it's a sad, sad state of affairs when people start feeling helpless. And it feels as though no one's doing anything. And what I feel is that the grassroots organizations that are there day in, day out with these young people, who know some of these young people, they're the ones who need to do the work. However, as they've mentioned before, they put in for grants, they apply for grants, and they're getting denied. And the bigger organizations who have the structure and the grant writing, abilities are getting the funding. And it just seems so sad, because those bigger organizations are not at this level. They're like national type of organizations. They're not local organizations on the street level, in the corners, in the crooks and crannies of the streets of London. And so what needs to happen is that either the national organizations come into the local areas and help guide some of the local workers on how to deal with this crime, and help give them some grant money, share their resources downward. If the local organizations can't get the grants, then let the big organization who gets the grants come down and collaborate and do some work in the streets. You go to Africa and help the people in Africa. You go to Nicaragua, you help people in Nicaragua. Send volunteers there. Well, then send some volunteers into the streets of Dalston, East London, Walthamstow. Come on now. I mean, it can be done. You've just got to allocate the resources and think about, the human resources, and think how this can be done. The knife crime, gun crime cannot keep escalating like this. It's getting out of hand. We're being a part of it. We were just down the road at another event, Caroline and myself. And it was just so sad to hear by the time we got home that 4 young men got stabbed. It's just crazy. It's just real crazy. So what I'm saying is, community, London, politicians, social workers, childcare workers, everybody, parents, come on now. Think about ways that we can make this happen. Eliminate, diminish, decrease the gun, knife crime, violence. It's getting out of hand. All right, so it's not Sunday. I'm not in Hyde Park Corner on my soapbox, but I need to get off it, right, Caroline? And we're going to get you working on your book. And you can tell us a little bit about what it is that you want to uncover today, what I want to talk about.
When I was writing this chapter, relationship identity, I was in a journey as myself to understand what relationships are really, to really understand and search how I'm relating with people and how I'm relating with could be my mom, my siblings, my partner, friendships and all of that. So I wrote this chapter I was in Belgium, and obviously the social system where you are, you observe as you're writing how those people relate to each other and so forth as well. And yeah, it was quite a soul searching chapter to write, and I've learned a lot from it, and I'm still learning. And yeah, and I'm hoping now I can unpack what it is for you, and then obviously everybody's experience is different. So that's why me unpacking this is important to see, and you to go and do your reference research, because obviously my book, as I said, is part academic and part self-help. So you will see a glimpse of an experiences of professionals and what they say, how they define it, and you see the glimpse of the normal life, day-to-day lives, and how these kind of things are defined and unpacked and experienced. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about relationship identities, challenges of identity, a psychological perspective. You can get my book on Amazon. Yeah, so and I do hope you guys can, join into the discussion, and yeah, let's share what we know. Two heads are better than one.
All right, so let's look at the basics. I'm not
Yeah.
going to play it all unless you want me to play the video yet.
Hello, Paris. Thank you for joining me. Paris is joining in all the way from the US, United States. I think she's in New York. So thank you for joining us today, darling.
Hey, Paris. So do you want me to play the video, or do you want to talk about what we think identity in relationships is about, or do you want me to go straight? I mean, because I don't know how you feel. We want our listeners and our viewers to understand. So sometimes when you go a bit...
So let me just unpack what a relationship is, right? I like to start defining something from the perspective of a dictionary and a general consensus from like a professional side of things.
Yeah.
So the Cambridge Dictionary, this is in my book by the way, I referred to the Cambridge Dictionary, defines a relationship as the way in which two things are connected. So remember, it defines it as the way in which two things are connected. So those things could be bad, sheep, dog, whatever. You understand?
It could be math equations.
It could be anything. So it didn't specify that it's human beings, but it says two things. It didn't say whether it's an object or a subject. So it means that in anything to have a relationship, there needs to be some form of connection. The connection varies according to what is being connected to. So as human beings, I'm going to talk from a human perspective, right? As human beings, when we have a relation with someone, because there's a difference between having a relationship and a relation and a connection. So when we having a relationship, let me define what a relation is. I could have a relation with a cousin, a bloodline relation, a sister, a mother, which we all do have those bloodline relation, right? And then a relationship, right, is where that relation is now consistently being maintained on things we value, what we share. That's when you're having a relationship. But if you're not having a relationship with that person, but you have a relation and it's not maintained, it means you're not being connected. There's no connection to that relationship. It's just a relation, which could be bloodline relation, distance cousin relation. It also could be like a relation through bloodline or a relation through family connections, I should say. So that's what a relationship is.
Okay, so it's a bit in depth. I'm sorry, I had to deal with this message here.
Yeah.
Caroline, so then what I want to do is let me play what these people say about
relationships.
Of any relationship is to enter it as an individual, to maintain your individuality, and to know that your purpose is to contribute to the overall growth and success of that relationship. A relationship is actually three entities. You know, it's two people and their relationship. But there's a lot of confusion around relationships because it usually means to most people becoming one person. And in that blending is a loss of self and a loss of independence. It's really important that we stay true to who and what we are. The problem with maintaining independence is that sometimes it could put somebody else on the defensive. They feel like we're leaving them out of certain things or that they're not wanted in certain things. And that couldn't be further from the truth. You know, independence is all about keeping your promises to yourself. It's knowing what you need to do to be a highly functional, emotionally mature person. And whether that means doing your bills once a week or scheduling a girls' brunch or taking a dance class or taking a bubble bath or going to the bar, you know, with the guys to watch the game or whatever the stereotype allows for. It's about knowing that no matter who you're in a relationship with, you're in it with yourself. And you can't betray yourself to make a relationship work. No relationship should require you to sacrifice who you are as an individual for the overall strength of a relationship. That type of sacrifice could only lead to dysfunction in a relationship and its ultimate demise.
So, from what the lady's saying, from the description of what she's trying to say, that you should keep your individuality if you want to be in a relationship, of which I disagree. If you're in a relationship, there's a difference, as I said to you, there's a difference between relationship and connecting. So the relationship always entails having a relation with someone else, right? A relation with someone else, a connection with someone else. Now, relating, if you're relating to the self, of course you're going to have to stay by the self. Be by the self, relate to the self, know the self. But if you're looking for a relationship, you always have to have the relation with that person or that object or that subject. I just give a little simple example. I got a dog a while ago. I had my little dog with me, you know, her name's Princess and that. So even though Princess is an animal, I had to have a relationship with my little dog. Even though it's not a human being, it can't speak back. In order for you to let someone in your space, you have to have a relationship. I was not just relating to it, because some people that relate to things, for example, just relating, let them not let, it's all about you, you're just relating to that person, but it's not a two-way thing. You understand? So, I mean, a relationship, that's why it's called a ship, because you're coming in the ship together. It doesn't mean that it's a one person, and it does not necessarily mean that you have to lose your individuality. It means that there needs to be rules within that relationship and how the ship should move. One person could be the navigator, another person could be the one that maintains the ship, you know. So it's all about laws, rules and boundaries. But if you think that you're going to be in a relationship with yourself, that's not a relationship. You're just relating. You're relating. You're just relating. So to relate, you don't, it's not, to relate is like you're doing it from your own understanding, just by yourself. You're relating to that thing, without giving that thing the opportunity to relate back to you. To relate back to you as a person, or as whatever it is that you're trying to relate with. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, so I'm sorry I can't be with you. I've got to deal with this. But what I'm saying to you is, when you have a pet, let's just say pet, and the pet passes away, right? There's a part of you that, to me, what I see with other people, there's a part of you is that it seems to die. It's like a sadness. You know, you feel real sad, and people say things like, "Oh, that's my pet. I've been with the baby since birth, or that's a puppy. I helped raise them," and they feel like someone has died. People who don't have pets, they really don't understand.
No,
we just look at it as that's an animal. It's one of those creatures, and how can you feel that bad? But I feel just like what you taught me, and other people have taught me as well, my friends who have pets, is that they're a part of your life. You cannot just turn off the emotions like that. So that's part of your identity. Your identity is an owner, just like you're a parent. Your identity is a parent. If you lose a child, you lose some of your identity because you were attached to that baby, even though it may have passed away. Your identity was still going to be part of being a parent. And so I have to learn to sort of understand these things because of the attachment is real. But how it's real, it seems as though it is attached to your being. Like you know what I mean? It's like you can't. Sometimes I think I can equate that to, I'm a teacher, and it's hard not to be a teacher because I've been doing it for so long. So sometimes people say, "Well, you look like a teacher." People may say you dress like a teacher. People say things like that. So then I'm assuming that's part of my identity, and therefore, when I relate to people, I could relate to them not as like a friend, but like a teacher. Does that make sense? Like all knowing, having all this knowledge, trying to persona. Yes, like my traits are not really defined in other ways, but defined as a teacher. And I think that's what's difficult with identity and relationships.
Hey, Malvina.
Is trying to understand how do we separate our identity, like the Yvette. Put it this way: if my school kids see me hanging out, they wouldn't believe it. Make sense? If the school kids saw me with my children, they wouldn't believe it. They don't know that identity of me. They only know the teacher identity, the professional identity.
Self-presentation. Like last week, we was talking about in my book, in the chapter, "Hi Malvina, how are you? Yes, we are at home at the moment. We are stationed at home, and we are broadcasting live from home." Like my book was talking about self-representation. Last week, the first series that we did, and yes, a lot of people in relationship, it's all to do with self-representation. Okay, Malvina's asking, podcasting from home. Yes, we are podcasting from home. A lot of people, they self-representation in relationships, which is identity, how they identify themselves, is different according to different relations and relationships. Remember, those of you that have just joined us, I just explained what a relationship is, a relation, and relating and connecting. So we're dealing with 3 or 4 components here. We're dealing with relating with someone. You're relating. You have to relate. You can relate to anything. You can relate to a dog, a cat. You can relate to a human being. You can relate to your computer. These days people relate to their computers a lot. Now, a relation is, you can have a relation with your bloodline, your mum, whatever, but you may not be relating with them, right? Now, a relationship entails you involving someone in your area, your life, your environment, and you make it relate together. Now, a connecting with that relationship entails different components of understanding. So these are the different four things that I mentioned in my book, and that I've got from my research. So what Miss Yvette was saying, that when she's teaching in her classroom, she relates to her young people. So when she comes out of the classroom, does she still hold that persona as a teacher when she's relating to other people? It happens a lot for quite a few professionals. As a psychologist, I do intend to analyze a few things around me. So some people do it unconsciously, or some people do it consciously, to see or to gauge and relate in a certain way or a certain pattern or certain area. So we also, when we're having a relation with somebody, not a relationship between a man and a woman, I haven't started on that level yet, but a relation with people that we relate to, objects, subjects, we do intend to pick up our experiences and our professionals, and we bring it into that relation, right? And that relating with that person. But a relationship entails, and to connect with those between a man and a woman, it's a different topic. You have to bring the experience in a healthy way, and that's what it is.
So what could be a healthy way? I mean, I know what could be a healthy way, because we've had healthy relationships, and we've also had unhealthy relationships. Valerie's going to come on soon, all right? So, but what I'm assuming is that you've got to, with healthy, it's set boundaries. I think allow people to be themselves. I think that you've got to be non-judgmental. I mean, I don't know all the rules, but I'm assuming these things are healthy, you know, because you're allowing the other person to be.
Self-expression, yes.
Yeah, and you're allowing the other people to be themselves. I'm going to try and bring Miss Valerie Campbell, one of my former guests, and I'm seeing if it can work right now. But yeah, and she's here with me. Valerie.
Hello, morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
How
are
you? Do you want to be on camera or not? It seems like you're shying away from the camera.
I'm fine. I woke up with a headache this morning.
Oh, party.
I've got one of those.
All right, we're having a guest. We've got a guest through Each Teach Radio who's gonna express her feelings about relationship. I don't know whether she wanna introduce herself, what she does, or whatever.
Valerie?
So that for our viewers. Yes, Malvina. Yeah, be yourself. It's very important for one to be ourselves.
Okay. Do you want me to give you a few minutes, Valerie? Because on screen I'm seeing all your house and everything, but I'm not seeing you.
Yes, please.
What do you
so
want to
our guest is gonna come back.
What do you want?
In a minute. We're gonna give her a minute.
You don't want to do Facebook Live?
Miss Malvina said, drink water.
Yes, because you've got to you've got to turn the screen. Because you'd have to turn it to you. Remember, this is radio, so I hope you're fine on her home. You know how these things work. I know Caroline's rearing to go. So, Valerie?
Literally, call me in 1 minute.
All right, so then you're coming back on screen, or do you just want to do a phone call?
I'll come back on screen.
All right, so, you know, add yourself later.
Malvina's laughing.
I know Melvina's laughing. Melvina, you should know you're doing your show, and I watch these little things happen.
Our guest is gonna come back. So as I was talking before, there's different types of relationships that we can have for ourselves, and within the self, people, human beings, animals, we all relate differently. All relate completely differently. So one topic we was talking about the health thing that we're talking about is basically having a healthy relationship entails you being yourself, number one. Number two, it entails you understanding who you are as a person. You understand? And number three, I think the guest is back.
Yeah. And finish off,
Caroline.
Number three.
Number three is basically knowing that you have the will to be free with. Yeah.
So what needs to happen is that we're going to get our guest, Valerie Campbell, on the line. Valerie, she's on the line, but she's also on Facebook Live. How you doing, my love?
Very well, thank you. Good. I am good now.
Good, yes.
Hangover this morning. I had to drink lots of water.
You know what I know is this is too early for some people, this 10 a.m. thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're up so early, me and
Yeah.
Caroline. We're just getting people and they're like, I'm not dressed, etc.
Yeah.
But Valerie, let's talk, because you're... What's that, my love?
No, I'm saying I'm usually up early, but I got in about 3 o'clock yesterday morning.
Naughty.
I went to a 50th birthday.
Oh,
It's a 50th birthday, so it was
okay. So wonderful. So you're with us now. So let's get back to me, you, and Caroline, and the present identity and relationships. Yeah, Caroline, you love her when you meet.
Malvina said we're not clear.
But what we're saying is, could she hear us? What is she saying? Clear what? Because Colin said he can hear us lovely. So Valerie, so tell us a little bit about your journey with knowing about identity and relationships.
Well, as you know, I'm the founder of The Secret Vibe. I'm also author of She's Got That Vibe.
She's got that vibe. Do you ever?
She's got that vibe, yes. And what I realised, because I used to work with over 120 men in environmental services as the only female, only black female at that.
Yeah.
Learned a lot. You know, in those, I think it's about approximately 15 years, about the psyche of men. Because I was working with them day in and day out. They're just understanding how men think, what they want, how they relate. And obviously, being a woman, I would be able to switch between masculine and feminine energy
Okay.
at will.
Yes.
To have my targets achieved, etc.
So,
And what? Okay.
so there were times when you had to be like a male, that you had to switch that identity to match their energy. I'm assuming, but there had to be times when you had to be yourself, which is feminine, more feminine.
That's right, because masculine energy is all about getting things done. It's solution orientated. It's about mental challenges, about achieving targets. It's about solutions. And we operate in our masculine energy. When you think about, for example, being a single mum, you have to get things done. You've got to get the shopping done. You've got to get the bills paid. When you're doing things, you're in your masculine energy. But when you're in your feminine energy, you're more coming from a place of open heart feelings and operating from that space. So feminine energy is deep, it's mysterious, it's receptive, it's receiving energy. And I like to look at it, I like to look at nature. And if you think about the egg in the womb and you've got the sperm, it's the sperm that pursues the egg.
Right.
So when you think about energy around those two things, that kind of sums up what masculine and feminine energy is. The egg is still, it's receptive, it's pursued by the millions of sperm, and it's the one sperm, basically gets the prize, the most competent.
So what do you think of that, Caroline? The fact that the male energy is the pursuer in most cases.
That's the natural habitat, to be honest. As we was talking before, I don't know whether you was listening, as I explained, we're talking about relationship. How you relate, when you relate into an object, a subject, is when to have a relationship is different from relating to things, right? So, in my book, I talk about relationship. As you are describing the energies within the relationships, right?
That's right.
So the energies within the relationships are, exposed according to the relationship you're having with the person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in that regard, because we were just unpacking what a relationship is and how we relate to different people. So in that regard, I think it's the individual person or individual. It doesn't have to be a person; it could be an object. Individual thing that you're relating to is the connection of the energies, right?
Right. It's all about the connection of the energies. You know, I think on my last show, I spoke about sexual polarity. And that's about the dynamics between masculine and feminine energy. And the more masculine energy a woman has, the more effeminate a man she will attract. So the more feminine a woman, so the more, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, the opposite,
So,
like.
for example, yeah, so you might have a high-powered, successful businesswoman who operates with a masculine energy in the workplace, but she doesn't know how to turn it off when it comes to, you know, the
Relationship, the
bedroom.
man, the bedroom part,
Bedroom.
Right.
She needs to be able to turn it on to feminine energy, to be able to relate and have a relationship with the alpha male that she's so desperately seeking.
Right. So it's the same thing. If you're too masculine, you've got to really bring in, as a woman, you've got to turn on your feminine attributes. And
Absolutely.
right. So then that's got to go for the men. So if a man is like an alpha male all the time, and
So
he's got to,
Do you know?
he's got,
more masculine to be a woman he will attract. See, that's how the law of sexual polarity works.
For me, as a psychologist, we're very slow to put a label onto something unless we've done a whole heap of assessment with that thing. What I believe, there's some women as well. They could have masculine energy at work, but when it comes to the bedroom and at home, they have feminine energy. Same with the men. I mean, I've seen and I've got a friend who is a prison correction officer. When he's in prison, dealing with those prisoners, he's more masculine, more whatever. But when he's with his woman, it's a different type of ballgame. You know, and the same thing with a few feet. I've spoken to one guy where I used to work before. He was a serial killer. He killed some people a long time ago. Tall like that, but when you speak to him, his energy is different. Very calm, very humble. You know, so I think people expose different traits according to the different environments they're in. You understand what I'm trying to say?
and who they're related to.
And who they're connecting with at that time. I believe that to have a relationship with someone, as psychologists, we have to unpack the person slowly but surely and connect. Because it's about the connection with that person. If you don't have the connection, the relationship will go a certain way. Because then they'll still keep putting the egos on the table. It's all about the ego. The ego will always be on the table. So to unpack someone, you have to break down the egos.
If it's allowed.
And be receptive if it's allowed. Now, with relationship towards other objects or such as other things, such as animals, that's a different ballgame altogether too. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's a bit complex.
Yeah.
But let me ask you something. Go ahead, Valerie.
They also, you know, like when I just came on earlier, I heard you talking about boundaries and, you know, the importance of setting boundaries in a relationship, because I actually did a video, funny enough, just last night, called Why Boundaries Are Important for a Healthy Relationship.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
You know, if you don't have, I actually did 32 pointers. That's what the video is about. 32 pointers on why boundaries are so essential. Because I was studying all of the, again, about
Narcissist, yes.
Narcissistic personalities, yes.
And that's a pretty interesting topic. Wow. So that kind of led me to kind of like then do this video about boundaries. But even like narcissism, that's just like a whole topic all by itself.
Right.
So, you know, the psychologist, sorry I didn't catch your name.
Caroline Namagabe.
Caroline Namagabe.
Yeah.
One of them, when it said, I'm not sure if I got it the other way around, was it psychopath
Yeah, psychopaths. Psychopaths, sociopaths. Right? Now, with narcissistic, I do unpack that a little bit in my book. Narcissistic personality is more about I, ego, ego, ego. They don't have a balance. Yeah. Do you know what?
Well, I think we've all dealt with those.
Yes,
mate.
yeah, and it's so funny that a lot of women have dealt with narcissists, and they cannot recognize the trait, and they always feel like the women always feel like they're in the wrong, because a narcissistic person is very dominating, very manipulative, very eagerly laid, and the thing is, it also most of the time it stems from the parenting as well. You know, if it's say for example, if it's an only child, the mom gives them everything, or the dad, they're very spoiled. So the more used to getting what they want at that time. So it's sort of instant. It's my way or no way. Yeah. I unpack that. Yeah.
Just with this break, I just want to say hi to Nicola McKenzie. This is a long-time girlfriend of mine. She is part of Team Shoe Doctor. You see them on Facebook. Love you, Nicola. I hope you come back online and share in the conversation with Valerie Campbell and Caroline Namugabi.
Hi.
All right, Nicola. Love you, darling. Yeah, so one thing can I just say about the narcissist? The narcissist has this thing where it's about I. And it seems as though, like when, I don't care about you. It's all about me. What I do is not to serve you, it's to serve me. I think that seems to be a lot of men. I know women are like that, because we know women are like that. We call them, you know.
I think men can have narcissistic, definitely have narcissistic traits, and I think the word is bandied around a lot. But I actually went out with this guy, and it was the first time that I was prompted to go to Google to kind of explore this person, because I thought something is not right here. Imagine going out with someone and you're having to go to Google
to look him up.
And I remember when what the hell? I went in and I put some symptoms. I'm going to put some word symptoms, and I couldn't find anything. Then he did something again, and I thought, no, this is not right. And you know what that thing was? Lack of empathy.
Yeah.
That's a narcissistic person. They lack empathy. Yeah, they lack empathy.
Yeah, I thought this is weird. This is strange. And I came across this article, and it was tick.
He was all of the above. No, but
everything was like I just felt like I was giving.
That's right.
And you're not getting nothing back. So going back to relationship, how a narcissistic person relates to people, it usually stems from the childhood, right? And oftentimes is they also been neglected from attention. You understand? And then as the opposite also relates to giving too much attention from the parents. So it's a lack of balance within themselves and knowing the self. And the thing is, they cannot accept it, because what it is what is been groomed in them and in their environment. So for a woman to pick up a narcissistic man and believe that they're gonna change them, it will be forever. You'll be wanting to do it. You'll be on there until you lot die. You know, because it's up and down.
Yeah. As women, we're nurturing, and we want, we're always trying to fix, which is actually masculine energy again. We're always trying to think, we can fix this person, we can nurture them. But narcissistic people, like you said, you can try until the cows come home. They are not going to change.
Well, let me just say this. Let's talk about the opposites a minute, right? Let's talk about a dominant, I call it dominant, meaning we're dominant because we know ourselves, independent women, right? We kind of know who we are from little, or whether we learned it. But we are now standing here in front of this man, and he met us with these same traits. This is what's so deep with relationships. He's met us with these traits, but it seems like when he sees these traits in action, it is like, no. I've sabotaged this woman's life. I've got to make sure that she is a humble pie like me. She cannot have that much shine. She cannot have that much persona. She cannot have all these friends because she is just too hot for me to handle. But you met me like that, yo. You can't change me like I can't change you.
Yes.
And why is it, what I'm trying to say, is that we just don't learn. We cannot try kick a tree and see if your foot in a brick. You can't break a tree. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've been doing this for 50 years, yo. You can't break this. You may try, but I hope you break your foot while you're doing it. Because, and the same thing with the women who try and change. Yeah, you can't. You can't change people. And people, yeah.
He's actually, I could call him like basically a sheep in wolf's clothing. Because he will actually adapt himself to be the type of person that you think that you need.
Yeah, right.
So they present themselves that way. And then once you become emotionally connected, then you start to see the clothing slip and reveal the wolf.
Right, right.
And because they're insecure inside.
What they do, what narcissistic men or people do, not only men, because there's narcissistic women there too, they appeal to your nature. They appeal to your nature. Once they appeal to your nature, as you're saying, they know all the things to trigger and hold on to, and then they will let loose. They'll be like, listen, right, I got her in my snare, so this is what I'm gonna get her. This is how I'm gonna mold him or her. You understand what I mean? And so,
you find your cycle.
yeah, it's a cycle.
Like,
Yeah.
You're happy. It's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde character.
Mhm.
You know, you're in this cycle, then you break up, and then somehow you're back together with the person again, and then you're in this cycle again, and then
Because they are manipulative, you see. But then we go back to relationship now. Now that's not a relationship. That's a relation. You're having a relation because you're not connecting. So if the connecting is disconnected, you're just relating. We are just relating, really. We're not in a ship. So
there's no exchange.
Okay, so what makes the ship part of a relation? Is that like a attachment, emotional, spiritual? What makes
All
the
of the
ship
above.
part?
it's the connection, attachment, spiritual, emotional, balance, energy. 5 things: attachment, spiritual, emotional, balance, and energy.
Yeah, all that
All that into one. And it's not easy, because in human beings, in any human beings, because nobody has self-actualization. Human being will always changing. The identity, certain identities that we have are always growing, and they're always fluid. So you need to find somebody who is tolerant and understanding.
Right, of what? Like each other's
Of
personality.
each other's personality, each other's traits. So being tolerant with each other and understanding each other, it takes a lot of discipline and love. Hence why there's a lot of marriages that have lasted 50, 60 years. They say, oh, black people, we don't last in marriage. No, I've seen black old folks, they're still together. That woman has been tolerant of that man.
And the man of the woman.
Yes, it's all, and she's been really understanding to keep that home. It doesn't happen nowadays, though. Technology has scraped that away.
Sorry, Valerie?
I would more say accepting as opposed to tolerant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And accepting because you accept
That too, yeah.
person for who they are.
Yeah.
And you
Hello,
don't boast
Pamela.
about that person, and you accept them, and then you make a commitment to yourself
Yeah.
that you're going to go on that path with that particular individual.
Hmm.
I think one of the biggest mistakes that women make is that they're all trying to change men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can't change.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like
Mm.
just to use an analogy, like it's like a woman. She says she
Pamela.
wants a cat, so she walks into a pet shop, and with intention to buy a cat, and then she ends up buying a dog, takes the dog home, and then wonders why the dog's not meowing like a cat.
Yeah.
You have to accept a person for who they are. It's either this person matches with your values and who you are, or they don't. right to change anybody. Everyone has the right to create their kingdom as they see fit. And it's either you adhere to my values, then you can come and play my playground. If you don't, then bye. There's no animosity. There's nothing. You're just accepting the person for who they are. You either get on or you don't.
No.
And that's the way
I have this one question, and this always, was a big thing for me. You know, when you go to work, there's the thing of, the work husband or the work wife. That's a deep thing. That is a relationship. It's a business, I don't know, professional maybe, relationship, but it's like real. It's like real. It's like this person who you work with is like your ideal mate. But it is off bounds or off limits because it's in a workplace environment. Some people do cross the boundaries, but I'm saying in general, a lot of people say, oh, I have a work husband. I don't know if it's a British thing or American thing, but I remember it in America. That there's this person at work. Oh, so it may be an American thing where there's that person, that usually the opposite sex, that, you find you can work with, it's lovely, they're respectful to you, they make you feel good, you get on well, it's like a good partnership, but they are, they're a workmate or work husband, we used to call them, and so that's a deep relationship.
Romantic side of things, that's a whole new ball game, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there might be a great work husband or work wife, on that side of things, but not in the romantic sense.
Okay, yeah, because you mean you have to keep it business? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but I mean there's boundaries in the workplace.
That's right. Yeah, you got to keep it business.
It's a different dynamic.
Yeah, you can't explore it the way you would normally in a normal relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell us about your book. The basic. You wrote it a couple of years ago, because and.
I've got a latest book out. It's called Who's Chasing Who.
Oh.
And again, that's about just looking at nature and who they can only ever be the pursued or the pursuer.
Okay.
And it's just about masculine, feminine energy and just allowing you to kind of just like relax. Woman needs to kind of like release that control and allow a man to come to her. So when she gets to that state where she's bombarding him with texts, where have you been? Where's this relationship going? Turning up unannounced at his workplace and all that sort of stuff, or sending most of the texts, making most of the calls, and operating with mode, which is masculine energy. So that's really about just helping the woman to recognize what she's doing.
So let me ask you a question. So do you always write from the perspective of energies?
Say that again?
Do you always write from the perspective of energies?
Well, my book is called She's Got That Vibe. I'm very much about vibe, which is basically short for vibration. So
Yeah.
what I say is you can never attract more than how you actually feel about yourself.
Yeah.
So really for me, it's like, well, how do you feel about yourself? That's the vibe that you're sending out.
So
You don't hold yourself high self-esteem. You're going to attract men that...
it's true, it's very true. I understand what you're saying. Basically, that I from a psychological perspective, I go through people's childhood experiences, parental nurturance, picked up energies and all of that, and what is learned behavior, conditioning, environment. So when I'm with somebody, I look at the whole overall picture, and then I'd go through the energy part as well. Because what happens is, there's people are conditioned in certain environments to think a certain way and certain upbringing, you understand? Whereby they're tamed that way as well. So I think for me, I tend to look at both sides of things, if you know what I mean. Because someone could have the right energy, but their environment is messed up, and their family upbringing, and then there could be basically that could be a hindrance, if you know what I mean.
Say they have the right by that.
Say that again.
What
Yeah.
are you referring to?
We lost that just a split
You said
second.
that when they have the
She's tagging somebody, but I didn't hear it. What did you say?
right, no, you were saying that they could have the right energy but be in the wrong environment.
Yes.
When you say the right energy, what in relation to
How they feel about themselves at that time. Say, for example, a man is, because we've got these scenarios. A man is divorced, but he's still living with his ex-wife. Okay? He's moved on, his energy is right, but he's still in that environment. Hasn't moved out yet. And he's moved on to a next woman. Okay? He's with that woman, but he hasn't moved out of the ex old house with that energy. Yeah? So the environment that he's in is toxic. So his energy comes off as if it's off, but it's not. It's just that he hasn't removed himself from the ex out of that environment. And therefore, he's worked on himself, he sees straight, his energy is right, but when it comes to you and him being together, the energy is right, but then if something comes off because of the environment that this person is in still. Do you understand what I mean?
But that still is energy. Everything is energy. So even though he's still living with the woman, that's the ex-wife or the ex-partner. That's still going to have an impact on his energy because it's all about how you feel about yourself. That's that's the vibration that you're actually sending out.
So at that juncture, would you say that his energy isn't right? Or do you think it's a bit warped?
Right, it's not a case of right or wrong. It's, you see, I don't go.
That's why she doesn't go.
Mr. Right, but the thing is Mr. Wrong. There's
No,
only
no.
Mr. Perfect match.
Valerie, I said, is it warped? Warped, not right or wrong. Warped. Is his energy? If a man pursues you, is his energy? Is it energy in line with you? But where he goes home, he might live, like she said, with his ex-wife. So does that affect his energy, you're saying?
Right, well, everything will affect his energy. But I won't use the word warped because I go from the perspective of the law of attraction. Like energy attracts like energy. So that person is not going to attract somebody who's not a match to them vibrationally speaking.
Okay. So why do things not work out then? Because if we
you're going to attract somebody who is evidence of how you are feeling.
yes,
Who you are. You attract who you are, not what you want.
okay. And so when you work on the relationship, that's when you get to learn what you want.
Getting on with that person, for example, but it's a reflection of something that's not. All right, let me give you an example. Maybe this is easier. Okay, so I was working with a lady, and she kept on attracting what she call hot-headed guys or angry guys. Yeah, and because of the law of attraction said that like energy attracts like energy. In other words, the universe will give you evidence of how you are actually showing up energetically. She was actually attracting angry guys. So I said, not angry. I attracts like energy. And she said, no, I'm not angry, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you are. Let's explore. Yeah? So when I started to speak, and usually it stems from childhood, so that when she was young, her father had abandoned the family home. And I pulled down, she said that she was really upset, left and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so there was energy that she was holding, that she was unconscious that she was actually holding that energy. You see. So
Right.
how you actually feel about yourself is like, is attracting evidence of how you feel about yourself. So she went and then spoke to her father, who lived in France, and now she's listened to him from an adult perspective, not a child, and how that child interpreted it. And she had a huge energy shift. And so she started to attract a different type of men that are not unlimited.
Interesting.
So you attract who you are, not what you want.
Okay.
Everything that you do has an impact on who you are. Basically determine what you see, what shows up in your life.
Wow. This is deep. Because remember, you were on my show before, and, you know, we only had a little bit of time, and I know you said you can't stay long, but you're doing wonderful. You're introducing some ideas so deep, and they correlate. It seems so tricky, because it seems, well, if we attract people, and we do make a nice mesh of it, you know, we mesh well, but we go on for like 3-4 months, and then things seem to crumble. So then we've moved into another area, so it's not about attraction anymore.
Because we've now moved into an area because how you feel about yourself is now starting to change. You might have fear now that you're going to lose this person. So now you're acting out of that fear, and the universe has to give you evidence of what you're feeling, of the vibe, that vibration that you're sending out.
I believe, this is what I believe, and I'm only talking about because I know what perspective you're coming from, and I come from like both, because I meditate. Yeah. Because what I do, I also meditate, so I know where you're coming from, but I come from a psychological perspective as well, and also, because we're talking about relationships here. Some people don't know how to relate because they were not taught how to have those attachments. They're detached. Because remember, feelings are chemical. Feelings change. You understand? It's a chemical reaction in the body. So some people, the way they relate is through how sometimes, as you say, parental nurturance, they're angry. Maybe I saw my mom and dad getting in it all the time and so forth. You understand? So the way I relate to someone else is what I know, what has been expressed in that home from childhood. Therefore, that trait can be, the energy might be different, the energy might be right, but because of learned behaviors, as you say, they're hard to unpack. Yeah, learned behavior are not easy, and they're not easy to be unpacked. So therefore, that's what it is.
Yeah, you have to first have an awareness of it to be able to deal with it.
Yes.
So I'm saying we've got these subconscious beliefs that we have about ourselves.
Yeah.
And unless you basically become aware of it. Let me give you an example that has nothing to do with relationships. Last year, I went to, I lent somebody some money. And, I can't see you anymore.
No, because I'm putting you on the other screen so that Caroline's viewers can see you.
Oh, right, okay.
Sorry.
So, I lent somebody some money. They brought the money back. And I knew I was traveling. So I had £700 and I took 200 and I went and did some shopping. But I put the £500 in a bag that was next to basically the radiator in the kitchen. And a couple of days, because I was traveling to Nigeria, I went to find the bag. So I thought, I'll just take the money now but when I went and looked for the money, I couldn't find it anywhere. And you know when you keep going back to the same spot, you're thinking, but I know I left my bag there. So that's where I kept my bag. And I just kept on going. I was thinking, where's this money? I looked around, I couldn't find it. And at the time, I had a tenant, and my boyfriend said to me, "Oh, maybe the tenant is taking it." And I said, "No, I do not attract that kind of person around me." I said, "It's not possible." But what happened is he sowed a seed in my mind, and because of that seed or that belief, I kind of latched onto it, because they say a belief is nothing more than a thought that you have said yes to, okay? So that actually stopped me from looking for it. A year later, I'm at home and I'm basically saying some statements of truth, and I'm saying, you know what, I'm a money magnet, I'm abundant, I went to bed, woke up the next morning, and I began to declutter some stuff, yeah? I am statements, that's another subject altogether.
Yeah.
But I started decluttering some stuff, right? Putting stuff away. It wasn't my intention. I was actually meant to go to the gym that morning. And as I went to the kitchen door, I picked up a bag and I saw like a £20 £20 note in it. And I said, Valerie, you're so careless how you just left the £20 note in the bag. And when I opened the bag, even before my hands reached, I saw this wad of £20 notes. Yeah?
Mm.
And I froze. And I froze. And my spirit said to me, what you believe determines what you see. So I asked my spirit, what? So then the question was, what other beliefs do I have that is blocking me from seeing what is right in front of me? And I'm saying that story because when you think about relationships, yeah, your perfect guy could be right in front of you, but you don't see him because you're holding beliefs that are holding you apart from something that is right in front of your face.
That's right.
What you believe determines what you see.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I wanted Caroline's viewers to see you as well. That's really what it is. Because this is a very nice show. This is working out very nicely. So what I'm saying is, when you found that money, because that's really what happened, you ended up finding the money, but you stopped looking for it because of the belief you kind of got, because it seemed like natural that maybe your tenant did take it or something happened.
Yes,
but
because that seed was sowed into my mind.
Yes.
As a tenant. So therefore, I acted on that belief. So therefore, I didn't see the money. I stopped looking for it.
Yes, really.
But then when I started saying my statements of truth, I'm abundant, God's universe has to give me evidence of that belief. And the quickest way was to show me, look, there's money in your kitchen.
Right.
You see. Because I now held that belief. But then what beliefs are you actually holding that is stopping you from actually seeing what you want to see? So you attract who you are, not what you want.
Interesting. You two. We have to do another show on another topic because you've got a lot of knowledge.
You know what it is. You know what it is. Let me flip it for you on the other side, because we do have a lot of knowledge as sisters, and this is why we need to always document it, write it down. There's a lot of us that people need to start writing, and once you start with one book, then it takes you over to a next book, and you just keep on writing. Have you found that? Because I started, I've just finished my first one. I published it. Now I'm on my second one. You just want to go and write and explore, So,
we're preachers, we're works in progress.
Yes.
When I'm in church,
yes.
I speak more from a spiritual language and verses from the Bible but it's the same thing that I'm talking about. What is it Einstein said? That, basically he was saying that, it's all strands of the same thing. Like, people speak scientifically or they speak spiritually or psychologically, but when you actually go,
it's more spiritual. It's more spiritual.
About the same thing.
Yeah, it's about the same thing. But the European men have taught us to believe that to put labels on it. A spiritual thing is not labeled. It just happens. It's nature. You understand? So we lost the universal principles along the way because we've capitalized on them. Yeah. So I wanted to flip it on the other side where I talk about it in my book. You're in a relationship, right? You're single. You're a single woman. You don't have kids. Okay. The man's got children. The man's a single father. So now, how you identify yourself in that relationship, you don't know. You don't have motherly traits. Because you're not a mother yet. You don't know how to be a mom to those kids. So now you've been given an automatic identity of a stepmom. Now, this is new territories to you. This is a new identity to you. You don't know how to handle it, but you're doing it because of your partner. You understand? So now you've been identified as a stepmother in a relationship, an identity that you have not been ready for, but it's automatically given to you. You understand? So that can affect a relationship in a certain way too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a lot of women out there that are dating single fathers or in a relationship, and vice versa, men that are with single mothers. They don't know how to be fathers. This is an identity that they just picked up by default, right? And therefore they're like, okay, I love the woman. I have to deal with this. I have to learn along the way. So they're trying to identify themselves as new fathers, as fathers, when they're not ready for that.
Right. But see, one of the things that identity comes, that Caroline just mentioned, is that you get identified by what you do a lot, not necessarily who you are. And the thing is, the deepest part is that who you are is, you're the only one who really knows who you are. People just know what you do. Does that make sense? So therefore, when it comes to real identity, yeah, I think a person has to be transparent, if there's such a thing as a person being transparent for themselves. They only present a certain identity outward. The different moods they have any minute of the day, with the different relationships they have with different people, their neighbors and whatever, their family members, their parents, their grandparents. They are so multifaceted that no one, to me, can put an identity on a person, but the person puts an identity on themselves.
Well, actually, no, if you actually don't have, again, going back to boundaries, if you don't have boundaries, another person can actually define you. I think my self-esteem comes from knowing who God said I am. You see, God said that I was wonderfully made. He said that I'm a masterpiece. He said that I'm a queen. So my identity comes from how God sees me. The way I see it is that you've got the world on one shoulder, and then I've got the Creator on the other shoulder. And I think through growing up, listening to, the ego on the shoulder trying to put you down, saying you're this and you're that, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And then it's like coming to a point in your life where you really realize who God is. And looking at how He sees you. So that's why, my faith is so important to me, because it's not about me leaning on my understanding of who I am. It's about leaning on my understanding of who God says that I am, which takes me to to a higher place. I know this is, I'm not preaching. I'm just saying how I feel. Like, I see it as that God created me, and so therefore I'm here for a purpose, and whatever that purpose is, He knows what the purpose is. So that is how I actually live, and that is the identity that I have. Yes, I'm multifaceted, because I'm a mother, grandmother, sister. Ultimately, the identity comes from how God sees me, and that permeates through all.
But it's very interesting.
People that I meet on the street.
Yeah, the thing is, when you don't have that consciousness about God, about your Creator, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people don't have that, and they just go through life. You know what I mean?
Some people believe in the universe, spirituality, and not God.
And they go through life, and what happened? Yeah, and they go through life, and then, to me, I'm not saying that they don't have a clear-cut identity. It's just that when shifts come and people then label you, then they accept the identity. But the trouble is, they can't accept what necessarily the ramifications or the other stuff is behind that identity.
Sorry, love.
Does that make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
Someone on my live, Malvina said she loves you. She loves this lady speaking, and then basically they love you. And then Pamela said, nobody is prepared for parenthood. Nobody's ready for parenthood, whether you have child or not.
And that could be true.
let me tell you why I said this now, because I want to correct people. Sorry to say, I want to correct people. I kid you not, right? I say to myself, as you talk about boundaries, I say to myself, once upon a time, I will not be dating any man that has children.
I heard that.
But you say that you believe in God. If God proposed, no man can dispose. So it means God wanted me to date somebody that has a child. At that time, I'm not ready for kids. You understand? Let's call a spade a spade. Some people are not ready to be parents, and they don't want to be in relationships, right, that they have to maintain other people's children, you know, or whatever. Because at that time, well, this time I was young anyway, thinking, oh, I have to split the money, you know. If I get married to this man, we have to split the money 3 ways. The baby mother will have our money, this and that, you know what I mean? But having looked at it with love, you're able to accept these things. A man with children or a woman with children, you know? Because I've had a man that's been with a woman with a child and raised that child as his own. You understand? It's not about being, of course, nobody being parenting with kids. But the point is boundaries we set on ourselves, the limitations that you're talking about, the cognitive limitations that we set on ourselves, that, oh my God, if I'm with this partner and he's got children, I'm going to have to be a mother, I'm going to maintain baby mothers, being baby mothers on the phone, say, oh, blah, blah, blah. I say, can't deal with the madness.
I know, but
Help
the thing
me
is,
out.
but the thing, I love her so much. She's so funny. But the funny thing about parenthood, and because you really don't know what comes with it, you just have to go through it and deal with it as it comes.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, you can only go with the knowledge that you have. Like, I'm the second eldest of 11 children.
Wow.
And so I helped mum change nappies and, you know, even up to last week, my mum, when I went to see her, my cousin was there and she said, oh, Mummy was just saying how you were so helpful, you know, with raising the little ones. Like when the baby would cry, you'd be the first one at the cot while Mummy was sleeping, you know? Because I absolutely love children.
You love kids,
but you go into, you know, something like that with being prepared as you possibly can based on your experience. You see, you're as ready as you are ready.
Right.
You know, and you also, you know, you kind of you look at your mother and you think, okay, this is what it means to be a mother. This is what it means to be a woman. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that is the right way, okay? Because we all have faults within us, but that's kind of like the training ground to a certain level, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Basically, there's one of our viewers, Malvina. She says that sometimes the challenge is not with the child or children; it's having to deal with the other parent. And then she goes on to say, especially when there is no boundary between your parent and the ex.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I was saying that boundaries are so important for a healthy relationship. They're essential, but you know what the problem is? People don't take time to define what their boundaries are in the first place. So how can you communicate a boundary? You have to have boundaries in your life, or you'll just be controlled by
especially in your relationships. Yes. Definitely in your relationships, as you said, the energy that you had from a young age means that you wanted to be a parent. Your nurturing spirit. Your spirit was more nurturing from a young age, really, and that wasn't really a boundary for you because you love kids anyway, right?
Yeah, but everybody's the way I see it, everybody has their kingdom. Like you get to decide what goes in your kingdom. No one has the right to tell you how you want to live.
Yes.
No one.
Yes.
And that's why I respect other people. That's why I can agree to disagree, because that is your perception and this is mine. And we can all live peacefully together like that, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, You know that story I told earlier as well about the money? One of the things that came out really strongly as well is that sometimes what you believe is not necessarily true.
Yes, because it's cognitive core beliefs,
I believed that money was gone, but I was wrong. The money was there the whole time. So what I believe doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And that's for everybody, you know.
Someone put a quote. Someone put a thought in your head. So it's the thought process, the perception. Oh, she's gone. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was our guest, and she's written books about relationship as well, energy. She's
Valerie Campbell.
Yeah, her name's Valerie Campbell. She's still there.
I'm not sure. No, it looks like low network connection.
Okay, so Valerie Campbell, we shall yes, Malvina, we shall do so. So basically, yeah, as you've had from her and myself. Then again, my book is Challenges of Identity, a Psychological Perspective. We're talking about relationship identity. We're at the 5-chapter series. We're on the chapter 5 series on my book. We're talking about relationship. As I was saying before, Miss Yvette.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes when we put like the cognitive core beliefs, when we put them in our lives all the time, they do matter though, the boundaries and the beliefs that we hold. We could be holding them as children or as, we could have been held them as children or as young adults. But when we hold these beliefs, right, what happens is they can either hinder us or develop us within relationships or within our environments. But having said that, an individual always have to create that boundaries and have to create that connection within themselves first. They have to know the self first before we always say relating to somebody. So that therefore the expectations, we always have expectations in relationships. And my thought about relationships is that we shouldn't, because everybody like to manage their relationship, we shouldn't manage relationships. What we should do, what I believe, my suggestion is, instead of managing it, it's just be in it, enjoy it. Like my big sister here, she's always giving me relationships advice. She's like, listen, young lady, just enjoy the relationship.
I
be in
do not believe she just said that. And let me tell you, she talks about documentation. This is my documentation that she believes me now.
Yes.
No, I've always believed that. You just enjoy yourself with the person who you're with. The ramifications, all the conflicts, the constrictions that we all put in place.
Yeah.
You know, we put that in place a lot of times. And we're just not existing with that person. We don't allow it to happen. And that's what Valerie said earlier.
Yes.
We stopped looking. The person's right there. The person is right there, but we just stopped looking. Enjoy who you're with. The thing is, we are conditioned. So let's be honest. We are going to put certain things in place, some judgments in place. We are going to say no when we could be saying yes. We are going to say yes when we should be saying no. We are going to make mistakes. We are people. But oh, my video's gone. So I'm going to just...
So yes, so basically, that is that. I mean, she's always, Lady Yvette's always telling me, just exist in this relationships that you want to have. Do not manage the relationship. Stop managing it. Stop putting boundaries on it. Just enjoy the ride. So, I want to know from you guys, do you enjoy the rides in your relationships? Or do you just manage them? You know, and it's so true. We create too much labels, too much boundaries, too much everything. And then we sort of struggle. We're not saying to just be blindsided. No. Because with love is not blindsided. Love is like, actually, you just really have to just love the person as they are. At the same time, also keep your boundaries, but in a healthy way. Oftentimes, a lot of cultural things also, when we're relating, we're having a relationship, culture things do matter as well. The culture believes you have to go in there, in the relationship, knowing that the person's got certain cultural, cognitive beliefs that they hold about themselves, right? And so, in terms of relating to that person, you have to sort of be flexible with their culture, having a relationship, come with whatever they come with, make sure that you are able to deal with whatever they come with. You know what I mean? Make sure that you're able to deal with. Pamela says, when you have children, you have to manage who you put in their lives.
That's right.
That's the point.
We can talk about that.
That's the point. Yes, it is a good point when you have children. Yeah.
And that's when we talk about mothers. That's why sometimes we're hesitant to introduce our children to our mates, because we don't want the wrong mate to be, you know, introduced to our children and mess them up, because they get affected too. In other words, they think this one's for mummy, this man is right for mummy, only to find out, you know, 3 months later, which is really not a long time, that he's not the right one for mummy. And then for them to see the sadness in mummy, the different affection, tensions, and etc. All of it is just too much emotional for children. And so that's what's very important. And that's the same thing with a man who's looking for a stepmom for his children. No, it's very deep, because men kind of know instinctively what they want in a woman, for their children. So what they do is they try and get that woman. The trouble is they have to get the woman and get her for not just for him, but also for his children. So maybe there's dual purposes, dual intents. Maybe there's different strategies that he has to use, you know, to try and nab this woman, because he doesn't just want it for himself. He just wants it for, you know, his children, because he wants his children to grow. And that's what men do anyway. Because even before when they meet you and before you have children, they are looking at a woman who's future mother. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it comes from different stances, really. But it's the same thing when a man wants a woman. He wants her to be good for his children, whether he has them or not. You know? And see, that's the nicest thing about life, is that, you know, knowing and understanding a little bit about what relationships are about, it gives you an easier way. You're experiencing them, I'm experiencing them, and we've had different judgments about them. You know, we don't just say yes to everything we've been taught. We have to learn to sometimes say no, whatever we're doing. Maybe. You know what I mean? We've said no all these years, now we're saying yes. You know, it's true though. I mean, you have to change with relationships.
Some people say yes out of desperation though.
Well, but what makes it desperate? I mean, I'm going to see if I can get Valerie back on.
There's a lot of people, right, as I say, transparency. Yes, Pamela, transparency is really good. But there's a few women that will stay in a relationship, as we all know, because they just want to be in a relationship. These are the people that they don't know their self first, and they don't know who they attract, and who like their morals and values, their boundaries, right? And so if it's like that, then it becomes unhealthy. But as Lady Yvette said, men date for a purpose. Even though they won't tell you, they will always date for a purpose in certain regards. Right. Anyway. So yeah, I mean, I cannot believe we spoke. It's nearly 12 o'clock. We didn't even have a break. Relationship topic is deep. But yeah, in my chapter, I really talk about the trauma. So I'm going to read a little bit about the trauma part of it, yeah, and then the development, how and fulfillment in the individual, right? Some relationships are affected. The connectiveness is affected through the expectations that we have in relationships. Say, for example, if I'm in a relationship with somebody, my expectation with that person is that I want him to have certain income, certain this, certain that. And therefore, if that expectation is not filled and the purpose is not filled of that relationship, what we generally do, we put pressure on that person, on that woman or man, to become a certain way for us to fulfill our needs, but not knowing that we are putting pressure on them. So these individuals could also turn to substance abuse in order for them to maintain what you want in a relationship, and that could be unhealthy for both of your relationship, because the relationship becomes toxic. Remember, in the beginning I was telling you there's a difference between relationship and relating and connectiveness, connecting, right? So in this series, we are talking about relationships. When you're having a relationship, remember you could be connecting. Well, it entails connecting, but some people feel like the meaning of a relationship is just to relate, you know. So the meaning of a relationship is to have the connection, both emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. So when you are trying to maintain those 4 components within the relationship that you've got, it entails acceptance, and it entails tolerance and understanding. And this means that people need to really self-seek first if they want a relationship, because it entails a lot of things. So in my chapter, I talk about unfulfillment. So how does this unfulfillment affect the individual psychologically? So I say oftentimes this depends on the need that was meant to be fulfilling in the relationship. For example, if it was a psychological need, the individual could face issues of abandonment. They could have been facing issues of abandonment. So if the individual came in a relationship and their need in the relationship is a psychological need, and then you leave them, then that person will go facing issues of abandonment, because you as an individual did not fulfill that need for that person, and this person did not put this need on the table, and therefore it can become unhealthy, right? And then the other need where people go in a relationship is also financial need. Some people go in certain relationships because of a financial need, and now if that need is not fulfilled for that person, that relationship becomes unhealthy, and people can stop connecting. And other people go on there because of emotional needs, right? So the needs to have relationships can vary, but generally we should not really go into relationships because of a need. We should have fulfilled that need ourselves first, and at least working on our needs ourselves first before we go into that relationship. The relationship is there to maintain your both self needs that you've got and the boundaries, and to connect in a healthy way. So that is it.
That's some heavy stuff. I mean, Miss Caroline did a speed read there, because the point is you got to buy the book, really, if you want to understand a little bit more. You got to buy the book. Yeah. But I do want to play this, and we do not have any rights to this music, but I do want to play this Avery Sunshine, All in My Head. I just love this because it really is the dichotomy of relationships. It's in our minds, and if we put the positive in, it'll stay. But if we put the negativity in, guess what? The negativity is in. So I'm just going to play this for 1 or 2 minutes, and then we're going to round off the show for the last 10 minutes.